What's up, guys? I'm Chasing Vainly, and welcome to some new content on the channel. This is F1 Manager 22, the brand new game from Frontier Devs. Just came out last week. Apologies for the delay in getting this episode out. I've had some editing issues, but we are right here, ready on the start screen to get going. We are very excited, I think, for this.
Formula One, a sport that spans hearts, minds, and nations, where the 20 best drivers in the world come together to take on some of the world's most historic circuits. And that legacy continues today. The 2021 championship was thrilling from start to finish, and 2022 is set to be even better. New regulations will usher in an age of pioneering changes. New driving talent alongside returning champions will be dueling it out to the bitter end. The pressure will be on the team principals in the upcoming season as they manage their drivers, their cars, and the whole team to push to victory. This is not a challenge for the faint-hearted. This is Formula One.
With the excellent intro from Crofty into how things look at the start of the game,
Williams is a legendary name in F1, winning 9 Constructors' Championships in their heyday. The Williams family sold the team in 2020, and the 2021 season saw them fighting well from start to end. They finished 8th overall, thanks to some incredible performances by George Russell in his last year as a Williams driver. In 2022, Williams have Nicholas Latifi and new signing Alex Albon, returning to F1 after a year away to make up their driver team. The pressure is on for them to up their performance this season and push their way back towards those midfield places.
And as I was saying before Crofty so rudely interrupted me, we can go and reveal the team we're playing as, which is going to be Williams. As you'd expect, I used to work for Williams, my first job out of school, and I'm still a big fan of the team. You see, team performance-wise, we've got the 10th best car on the grid, 9th best drivers, 9th best staff, 7th best headquarters, which tells me exactly where I need to be working. Obviously, Latifi, Albon, and Aitken, the drivers. Demaison, Wheater, Irwin, and Jago are the technical staff. And it's going to go and switch us right over now to the information screen, which hopefully will pop up in just a second. I'm recording the audio after I edited because I wasn't sure if I'd get it clean. There we go. You can see that we're founded by Frank Williams, as everyone knows. Became a behemoth in Formula One. Their history is one of brilliant design, fierce competition. They've racked up plenty of impressive wins. Williams family seated their stewardship of the team in 2021 and racked up championship after championship after championship. Ready to go. I turned the guidance off because I don't need no stinking guidance. And here we are on the home screen. We're playing on the Xbox One, by the way, because my PC would not run this game. It was not going to do it, so we are doing it through the Xbox One. And here is our home screen. We're going to do a quick little tour through all of the screens you can expect, just in case you've not had a chance to pick up the game yet and have a look for yourself. So obviously our emails. So welcome to the team, the standard email. We get this on every single game we have ever played. Board confidence screen. You can see what the board think of you, see what the board believe you should be achieving. We'll go through that as the screens pop up. So the confidence level is medium. They expect us to finish 9th or above in the Constructors' Championship, and they want us to be a points contender regularly, 50% of the races getting points by 2024. So 2 seasons to get this car up to scratch, which is probably achievable. Our budget this season is £50 million. They're paying us £6 million up front and £4 million a month. And you can see that we've got our team rating of 467, which puts us in the established tier, but still some work to do. A lot of those points coming from Heritage. Constructors' points, as of late, have not been tremendously great. Finished 8th last season, but it has been 10th every season before that. And actually, no team rating earned for drivers' results, which kind of tells you everything you expect to see. 7 championships out of 49 seasons for Williams Racing. And this is just our own personal profile team. You can move from team to team down the line. We're not planning on doing that immediately. But I decided to go in with a plan for this season because money is going to be important. So I thought when we focus our development, we would focus it all on going towards Monaco, because Monaco is the race where all the big sponsors come. You can see we've got all the data for the track. And we can see that low speed and medium speed cornering is going to be really, really important to us at Monaco. Big chance of a safety car, which might give us a chance to do something with strategy there as well. Lots of opportunity to do something at Monaco, I think, if we can get the car up to scratch in time, which means it's time to move on to looking at our staff. You can see here our technical chief, DeMaison 74, Wheater 71, Irwin and Jago 77. That was not really good enough for me for what I was looking for. So I decided to go and have a look and see if I could replace this guy. And you're going to see here, I had a little bit of difficulty navigating the menus. That was kind of an issue. So I realised I had to scout key staff straight in on a technical chief because that was important. You're going to see here the negotiation process I went through was not terribly brilliant, I'll be honest. Neither was my navigation of the home screen. I decided to go in for T. Schwang because he was the highest rated free agent, and frankly, none of the guys from Red Bull, from Ferrari, even from Haas. I actually think the guy from Haas was interested, as you can see there, but I wanted someone who wasn't going to cost me money to bring in the first instance. And here's a pro tip for you before you go into scouting staff, trying to negotiate with staff. We're going to learn this the hard way. Maybe find out what the guy you're replacing earns before you go in to try and negotiate with someone else. Because I was like, it's suggesting $1 million. I'm used to playing Football Manager. It's suggesting $1 million. That's usually a good ballpark for starting negotiations. I thought I'd give him a bonus because he's obviously going to have to move house from wherever he lives to come be near Grove. I was like, 25k is enough to move pretty much anywhere in the world. We offer him the contract, and what you'll see here is that he just turns around and goes, no, buddy, that's not happening. So I went back to the drawing board, thought I'd up the fees, which you'll see in just a second. He's considering retiring on a long contract. So we go for 3 seasons, 1.2 million. And, 3 seasons is close to what he's happy with, but he's not happy with the money. I was like, okay, we'll go in, we'll do it again. The guy still seems to be interested in negotiating. His patience is going down. So I was like, okay, 2 seasons, 1.4. Nope. That's not going to do it. That's not going to do it at all. So I kind of reached a point here. You'll see we went to 1.7, same thing, not interested, and his patience was running out, and I didn't want to push him any further than I had to. I was like, one last offer, 2 million. What can we do here? Is he going to take 2 million? Turns out, not taking 2 million is where he's going with that, and kind of a time to walk away. And I thought, do I want to take anyone else? I had to think about Matt Harmon at one stage. I had to think about the 2 guys who were on equal free agent kind of status, but they're also equal rating. And I just decided to stick with DeMaison for now. We will probably have a look going forward at taking someone from one of the bigger teams. I'm not sure who we'll take yet. We'll see how this season goes. But a head of aero was going to be our next priority, and you can see here that our 71 rated head of aero doesn't even make the first page. That was largely unacceptable to me. Again, we could have stolen a guy from Alfa Romeo, but I thought baby steps. Maybe in hindsight that might have been a mistake, but we'll find out. We're going for Nicole Wiggins because highest rated free agent, 38 years old, so we'll probably get better. And at this stage, I did actually have a look and see what I should be paying someone who is in this position. I knew that 2 million was a little bit more than I currently pay my engineer, or my head of aero, that was in the position. So we sent the proposal, and the first person to sign for the team becomes Nicole Wiggins. Welcome to the team. We're going to get an achievement for this hire and everything. You'll see it pop up in just a second after we confirm the deal. And there we go. First on the bus, first achievement of the new game. It's rare I play Xbox games on the channel because it takes a while to edit, honestly. But Nicole Wiggins is a pretty good signing for us. And then I was like, race engineers, that's a place we need to improve. Obviously had a look at Bono. Bono, sadly, not interested. You can see, our best guys, they're 77. They are barely making the first page. It was definitely time for an upgrade. And this was an area where I was like, this is going to be important. I'm going to try and take from another team. Had a flick through on the right-hand side, you'll see who's interested in negotiating. The first one that we found was Ben Mitchell, and then Chris Cronin of Aston Martin. They both wanted to come over. Seemed like bit of a harsh thing to do, to be stealing talent from both engineers from another team, but this is a business, not a friendness, so we're going to stick Ben Mitchell ideally in that first car, because let's face it, I want him on my number 1 driver if he's going to be a long-term hire. He's 84 rated, he's one of the better engineers in the paddock. I'll go in with a £900,000. I was like, I should probably have a check, see what James Irwin earns, because That's what smart people do. And he earns £980,000 a year. So when I was going to propose a contract, I was like, okay, we are going to go back in. We're going to start off offering Ben Mitchell £1 million. Obviously, I could have scouted him, could have found out what he actually earns. I was going to go 5 years because I want to make sure I've got him for as long as possible. We'll give him a signing bonus as well because, again, probably less of a move from Aston Martin to Williams. It's only about a 50-mile difference. We go in, and he wasn't quite convinced. The starting bonus may be a bit too low for him, the salary a bit too low for him. I go back to the negotiating table, and I thought, I'll add another few $100,000. We take him up. I think I looked at 1.5. I did go to 1.5. I was like, we'll give him 50k, see if that makes him happy. We offer him that contract, and you can see here, green tick, green tick, green tick. And not happy with the starting bonus, but he'll take the deal, and now we have our first race engineer hired. And you're probably wondering why I started with the staff rather than with drivers, but the staff are the people who develop the car, develop the team. So we're going in with Chris Cronin, not quite as good as Ben Mitchell. So we're still going 5 years. We're still going to keep this partnership together. We're not going to pay him quite as much. But I decided to start with the staff because they are the guys who are going to develop the car, the guys who are going to develop the team, they're the guys who help coach the drivers through. They're kind of the most vital part of our team. Contract goes in there, you can see 5 seasons, 1.4. Not happy with the starting bonus again, but he quite happily carried on with where we were, and that's both our new race engineers in the car. So with the backroom staff, as it were, all sorted out, that was a pretty good jumping off point. And then I decided we need to have a little look at what else we're doing around here, our engineering team, and then we looked at the drivers. And Nicholas Latifi's going to have to prove himself to me, because let's face it, Nicholas Latifi is not the best Formula One driver in the world. So I went straight to Alex Albon, and it was a no-brainer for me. He's 80 rated, he's got a lot of potential to grow. I was like, can I tie this guy down 4 or 5 seasons? And actually, I've kept on exactly the same contract he was on. Exactly. I thought about putting his bonus rusher on. I thought that was a bit tight. But I've kept on exactly the same contract he had before, and Alex Albon was more than happy to take a 5-year deal. I suppose after having suffered a year out, knowing someone has that confidence in you to be with you for 5 years is probably quite smart. But I see him long term not as being our number 1 driver as he is right now. I see him long term as being our number 2, being that kind of Barrichello, that Coulthard kind of figure. You know, the guy who's a dependable, solid number 2, room to develop. If he becomes good enough to be a number 1, that's great. But if he doesn't, then we've lost nothing in the grand scheme of things. But I thought, we need to have a little look around. Jack Aitken does have some potential to be a decent driver. We need a number 1 driver. And there are a few drivers I'm interested in, and we're going to go and look through who we're scouting now. You'll see that there are some drivers who just don't want to join. Obviously, Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc, Perez, Sainz, not happening. But I saw Valtteri Bottas wants to return, and that tickled my fancy a little bit. Pierre Gasly is interested. Sebastian Vettel is interested. And frankly, when a 4-time world champion, even if he's not having the best of times at the moment, wants to join your team, you definitely give it a scout and see if that might be a possibility. And then I had a little bit of a further look down. I didn't want to go below Albon because, like I said, I am looking for a number 1 driver, not a number 2 driver. And I thought Gasly's a good option because he's pretty young still. He's proven himself more than capable of outdriving the car he's given. He's definitely a talent to look at. But Valtteri Bottas as well, down the line, is a guy I'm going to look at. I know he's not the youngest anymore, but Valtteri Bottas is very, very quick. And I had a little look down through as well. I thought about Nico Hulkenberg. I know every other YouTuber in the world is going for Oscar Piastri because everyone is under the impression he is going to be the next Ayrton Senna or the next Alain Prost. I'm not so sure. I had a little look down as well at like Théo Pourchaire, and just kind of keeping an eye on who would still be around. But now we need to look at the car as well, and the car, performance-wise, obviously interested in what we're doing for Bahrain, which is the race we're going to do at the end of today's episode. And we are a long way off the grid average in many, many ways. It's going to be a real slog this first season or so. But we can look and see what the suggested performance is for Monaco. And you can see we're better through high speed than we are through medium and low speed. So I knew at this point, really developing that low speed in the car is going to be an absolute priority for us going forward. we need to work on almost every area of the car. We're going to look at the developing of new parts here. We're going to go into the design. And we've only got 6 engineers, so it's very limited design we can do. But looking at the front wing first, because that's obviously got the biggest impact on the low-speed performance, and the underfloor as well has quite a big impact on low-speed performance. We are going to go in with some big things. You see on the green numbers tell us what the new part will do to improve us. I'm going to go in with just under an hour of CFD testing, because I know we get more hours in a couple of months' time, but I didn't want to push too much of it out the boat. We were going for 1 hour, and we're going to go for a solid 10. I think we ended up on 8 wind tunnel hours, just to see what we could get performance-wise out of this team. Obviously, we're not going to get right to the front of the grid with this first part. It's not going to happen. And have a little look at the sliders as well, just to see what we could do with the car. Obviously, if you try and move one area's development up, you lose performance in other areas. You also will affect the number of days a thing takes. Well, I could have kept everything else as normal and just boosted low speed, and we probably wouldn't have lost out too much. But it seemed like I had to have a little fiddle with the sliders. And then you'll see in just a second, I decided that I was just going to go with the presets. So we go to a low speed performance preset for the Focus, and that looked pretty good to me. I just wanted to up this slider a little bit so we didn't lose any high speed performance. I've still got to be aware that most of the tracks do require at least a little bit of high speed cornering, and that's kind of an area where we need to make sure we at least maintain or at least grow a little bit with the new parts. I don't want to go too far out here. Engineers-wise, I saw that we had 56 days to completion. That didn't feel like enough, but I was only going to put 1 engineer on the front wing project. We're going to go rushed, though, which should bring it in on 37 days, a little bit of extra cost, but that little bit of extra cost is probably worth it if it brings it in a couple of weeks before Monaco, gives us time to develop, build, I should say, manufacture a few more parts, and that's kind of where we go with that. So we're starting our first development project right away. We're going to go back into the design here for the underfloor, and again we're going to throw as many hours at it as we feel comfortable with. And again, I think I ended up on 1 hour, and I think I probably ended up on 8 or 10 wind tunnel hours. We'll see in a second. I don't know why I spent so long thinking about that. I was probably just trying to do math in my head, because it's not my strongest suit. So we're going with 1 and 10 there, and you can see it's an improvement all around, but again, we need to go with low performance, or low speed performance, because that's what we need to develop. And again, it was about just making sure there's enough of a boost in every area to really keep things moving on nicely. And I decided to throw the rest of my engineering team, because even rushed, it was going to take 57 days. That was way too many for my liking. And I thought if we can get all 5 of our available engineers on it, get it back in for the middle of April, that does give us time to build more parts. It also gives us time to develop new designs as well, because obviously beyond Monaco, we probably start looking towards bringing in parts for just after the summer break. Obviously, having more low-speed parts, more of that is going to be great for us going into places like Hungary as well. We decided to manufacture some of the new suspensions. When you start the game, they've already developed a new suspension. Every team, it seems to be, they've already developed a new suspension. No one seems to understand why that's the first thing that's always developed. We're going to design 4 of those, just so we've got some spares. Nice, straightforward, very easy. And then I was like, our facilities also need some work. And you can see here, a lot of facilities. We've got 6.3 million to spend after what we've done so far. And it was very much a case of what can we do that will improve things. You can see here, everything is very, very expensive. Even test centres. So we decided to go into the staff facilities, keep the staff happy, and hopefully everything else will follow. First thing we're going to go for is an upgrade to the team hub, which I guess is where the staff kind of rest and recharge and learn their trade. Scouting department, again, I want to be able to add a 3rd driver to our scouting department. Made sense to upgrade that one. And then race simulator, again, makes sense. It's just drivers gaining experience. It's always going to be beneficial to have drivers gaining experience. And we look at the ops as well for race day. And one thing I noticed straight away, we look at the boardroom first. One thing I noticed straight away was that we don't have a helipad. And for a Formula 1 team to not have a helipad is absolutely outrageous, because that's how you get the big sponsors. Obviously, We need to look at things like hospitality and the weather centre as well, but very much the first thing I was going to build was always going to be the helipad, 240k, to help make us more attractive to sponsors and to drivers is an absolute bargain. We had a look around as well at everything else. The memorabilia centre, tour centre though generates us an income. So spending 475,000 on upgrading that to get us a bigger weekly income at minimal cost in terms of upkeep was an absolute no-brainer. The weather centre I had a look at. We need to be able to, know the weather a bit better. And then I had a long look at, do I refurbish the boardroom? Decided not to. Financially, we'd have to have a look at what's going on as well. And our projected final balance is significantly higher by the end of the season, which you'll see in just a second. You have 17 million coming in, 18 million coming from sponsors, 50 million coming in there. So you can see we're projected to make 117 million by the end of the season, which is a really good budget for us to develop the car for next season. It's a really, really strong budget for us to develop the car for next season and hopefully start to push towards the midfield battle. We're not really projected to spend much. Sponsorship-wise, we've got a lot of merch money coming in because Williams obviously have that great history. Having that merch money coming in is always going to be beneficial. We also are committed to running some race simulation stuff, I believe. So we're required to use the simulator for 15 events a year for the sponsors. They'll pay us $2 million for that, but that's certainly worth every penny. Race hospitality, again, we're supposed to give access to the sponsors 15 days in the pits, 19 days in the memorabilia room for 110k, and then we've got drivers expected to make appearances for 12 million a year, 22 appearances expected for us in a season. And then we have another email about our sponsor obligations, and a season kick-off party to improve everyone's morale at 10k was definitely a bit of money well spent. And we're going to move on here. We've got a lot of things going on in terms of manufacturing. You see our new helipad came in, which another achievement, another big thing for us. Adding some more stuff to our HQ at Grove is always going to be a great idea. And we're ready for race prep. Pre-season testing, we are essentially the 19th best car on the grid, which is probably not the best place to start. We're good at medium and high speed, I guess, by comparison, but we also do have to go into Bahrain, and Bahrain-wise, we've got 57 laps, clear skies, a 5.4k track. It's a long-ish circuit, but we've got to set some performance targets. Qualifier, we can get a reward for reaching Q2. I think that would be a miracle, honestly, to reach Q2. But I had a look at the targets as well, and I figured if we've got a target to reach Q2, I think I'd rather think about maybe taking the extra money for the qualifying position 15th, because if we're going to reach Q2, obviously we are in 15th already. Had a look at whether we could reach Q3, and it was, let's be honest, Q2 would be a miracle. So I decided to leave it fastest lap as well. There's a finish position bonus here, 15th position. If we can finish there with one driver, we would get a little bit of extra cash. I had to think about it. I decided to take it because it's not a big loss and it's probably worth it. And there's a hot streak target as well for finish positions, but I don't think especially we're not going to get 15th qualifying in every single race. So at that point, it was probably time to move into our race weekend.
Welcome to the archipelago of Formula One. Bahrain might have a small land footprint, but it's showing its big spirit right now in the grandstands. Either way, it's time for another fantastic weekend of Grand Prix racing. The Bahrain International Circuit is a challenging track, and the cars routinely have to brake from high gear to low to take the narrow turns. With the need for downhill braking, the risk of locking up is one drivers will need to manage. It's all about focus and balance to get victory here. At this early stage in the season, there are still plenty of opportunities for things to change. In this sport, there simply are no guarantees. The weekend begins here.
And so here we are then for practice number 1, and we are actually going to take practice. If you put the tutorials on, it makes you skip practice, and I didn't want to do that. So we are going to go and we're going to put Jack Aitken in the car for the first practice session of the year, because I feel like he's got a bigger upside for us than Latifi. I want to get him that experience. I'm not sure if he's as good at developing a setup for us, but I wanted to get him that experience. And you can see here we have a bunch of options for how fast they're going to drive, all that good stuff that we might need to know during the race. I mean, it's kind of superfluous at this point. I just want to know how the car is performing just in a kind of general manner. And we're going to look first of all, I believe, at the run plans. I think we went to first. So we're going to go into Albon's run plan. And we've got 15 laps of running. I want to go as long as possible just to get him as familiar with the track and with the car as possible. So we're going to go for a 24 lap run, I think I settled on. And if we go next into, I think, his car setup, I think we touched his car setup just to begin with. I think I also sent Jack Aitken out for 24 laps. I thought about simulating the session, but I wanted to see what was happening. I think you guys probably have some interest in seeing it. In fact, I did simulate it, so my brain, but I've recorded this like 4 days ago. My brain has filled with cold bottom of the timesheets, 2/10 short of the Aston Martins. And you can see there that our setup confidence, 56 and 58, it's really not good enough for this stage in practice. So we're going to go into P2, and I think this is where I started playing with the setups a little bit more. So we are straight in. We've got Latifi back in the car. We can't swap him out for the second practice. As you can see, our braking stability is great. Everything else is good, but too much oversteer, which is definitely a bad thing for us as a team. And I wanted to just try and get everything in that little blue zone you see. I thought if we can get everything just inside there enough, we can get kind of a baseline. I spent quite a lot of time tweaking this because the sliders, it's going to take me a little while to get used to what I tweaked. Obviously with Motorsport Manager, I know if I want to move the balance of anything around, I know exactly which slider I'm moving, exactly which direction, how much, that kind of stuff. So we finally settled on that setup, and then we went to Albon, and again got a new setup on the car, and we've gone to the hard and the medium compounds for this session because I just want to get that kind of tyre knowledge. I feel like this is going to be a one-stop race where we go either mediums to hards or hards to mediums, and doing that feels like the smart play, just to get ourselves some laps out on those tyres where we can feel it. For some reason it came in saying we had done some laps on softs, but I did not send the cars out on softs, so maybe that's a bug. Maybe when you simulate they make some decisions about tyres. Setups have gone up to 63 and 64.
We'll be kicking off today with the final practice before moving on to the qualifying session. Drivers will need to perform with remarkable consistency if they're to secure a strong position on tomorrow's grid. It's not just about one moment of brilliance. No, they'll need to prove over the course of qualifying that they have what it takes to occupy those coveted places. So here we are, ready to resume.
And Crofty really needs to stop interrupting me when I'm in the middle of a conversation with you guys. So in P3 we need to do some more setup work to get these things going. 63 and 64, this is where we ended up with. We're optimal at the moment after that first run on oversteer and braking stability. I wanted to keep them in sort of the same place for Latifi, and then we will go across, I believe, to Alex Albon in just a second. Tyre compounds we're going to run, I think, the medium. Is that where we ended up? We either ended up with medium or hards. I think we chose hards because they'd end up being most important. Do a big run on these 35 laps just to get more confidence and more idea with our setup. We're good, bad, great, good. So nothing optimal on Alex's car, which is worrying. We're way off on the cornering, like miles off on the cornering. I had a little bit of a fiddle, and I ended up managing to get just about everything into the green zones, except the straights. I don't know why I would have left the straights being that far out. That seems like I made a really odd decision in hindsight. I think maybe I am getting the white and the green sliders confused, what means before and what means now. And we'll live, we'll learn, we'll learn the game together. It'll be just fine. We're going into P3, and P3 wise, I mean, we're closer to Vettel, but we are still miles off with Latifi. It's not ideal as things go. Setups at 73 and 69, which was the moment I decided I'm going to continue working on setups through qualifying. Between qualifying runs if I can, you can see Albon's got bad oversteer now. Good stress, just a mess. It's a bit of a mess, I'll be honest. So we're going to go Q1 prep. Obviously, we're doing some setup work, as I said. And it's just the braking stability which is bad for Latifi. Everything else is good enough, basically. So we had a little bit of a slide around, a little bit of a move. I am very much neglecting straights. I am realising I'm neglecting straights when I'm doing my setups. Now, watching this back, I'll learn that for the next race. That's good to know. We are going to manage qualifying one, though. We are going to see for the first time our car on track. If the graphics don't look like what you were expecting in the trailer, by the way, I think they've toned it down for the Xbox One compatibility because it is very much designed for the Series S, X, a decent gaming PC. But we'll make do. We can see what car's doing what. It looks good enough. It looks better than a lot of games already on this console, which is pretty good. So we have sent out Latifi for a first run straight away. We're going to send Albon out pretty close behind. Get out there while the track is still fresh, still green, and just see how things go here. I wasn't confident going out that we would get into Q2. I think this for me was more kind of a throwaway. First quali, we will learn how we do everything, learn how all the screens work, all that kind of good stuff. This first race very much a big learning curve kind of experience for me. It looks nice to me, I'm not going to lie, the game looks nice. We're watching Latifi's outlap here, and like I said, Latifi is kind of a guy, I don't rate him in real life, the game doesn't seem to rate him. I'm having a look here to see when cars might start going on the track, when things might start rubbering in as we head down the first DRS straight, and nobody has hit the track just yet. In fact, there is I think it's a Williams has gone out. I'm not going to pretend I've got much faith in Latifi. If I'm honest, if he outperforms the car, starts to outperform the car, starts turning in some good races, maybe I'll give him an extra year, but it will very much come back to me scouting all those other drivers that we're interested in, seeing how we go. At the moment, I'm really torn between who I want. I feel like Bottas gives us that good combination of speed and experience. I feel like Gasly gives us that kind of youth and that potential to build upon. Vettel gives us obviously great experience, marketability. He's not necessarily the fastest driver anymore, but he would definitely give us something in terms of setup, in terms of being a mentor to Albon. If I can get good enough results to persuade him to be someone who would be willing to look at us, I would be very interested in taking Daniel Ricciardo over, but it's probably not going to happen. Alonso you kind of have to look at because he's Nando. You know, it's a world of options. I think it's probably going to be closer to the summer break before I really make a decision on who our number one driver is going to be next season. It's going to depend on where we are in terms of the development of the car financially. Obviously, it's a big decision that I need to be making for next season, and we're just going to kind of take our time with that number one driver because ultimately, until I know where we're looking at finishing, it's going to dictate where we end up going driver-wise. Do I need someone to outperform the car? Do I need someone to make us money? Do I need someone who can develop with the car? Choices to be made. So here we are on the flying laps now. We are riding on board with Nicholas Latifi as he comes onto the back straight, ready to finish his first lap. Let's see where we end up time-wise. I always thought this straight should be a DRS, but I don't make the rules here. Probably 4 DRS straights at Bahrain would be insane. As we come over, we're ready to cross the line for our first flying lap. What is the time going to be for Nicholas Latifi? It's going to be a 1:34.3, which is not the greatest lap in the world at Bahrain. I'd expect pole to be somewhere around the 31s, 32s at Bahrain, definitely not the 34s. Albon crosses the line a full half second slower than Latifi as well. So we've definitely got some work to do in terms of setup, we've got some work to do in terms of ideas, just some work to do throughout this session to see if we can finish ahead of anyone. So I went out almost immediately after returning to the pits for a second run, had a little bit of a tweak of some things setup wise. fresh set of boots, and here we are crossing the line to go on to our flying lap. Latifi out in front, and there is definitely more traffic on the road right now than there was during that first run. We definitely don't have nearly as much clear air. The track grip is getting high, it's rubbering, will be starting to rubber in as well. Some of these guys in front of us have either just finished flyers or are going to go on to flyers. Yes, the Haas in front of us, I think that is probably Mick Schumacher there we were passing. Takes a little bit longer than we would like to get out of the way. We are green in that first sector, coming round now, heading towards what I believe is turn 9 off the top of my head. I think like turn 8 or turn 9. We're going here into the very, very tight hairpin. And anyone who's played the F1 main game, the way you actually drive the car, knows that corner really tightens up on you suddenly. It's a real test of your braking ability, and we're going to be crossing into sector number 3 in just a second, just past these S's. Latifi driving well, maybe not pushing as hard as I would like. We should cross the beam in just a second at the crest of this hill. We've gone green again. Albon though is yellow, so no real improvement in that first sector. That is a concern. He is in much cleaner air as well. Very hard trying to keep an eye on 2 cars here. As we come into the final corner, probably could have taken that a bit tighter if I'm honest, and probably less on the exit. Maybe we've got some understeer going on. We're going to cross the line though, see what kind of time we put in here. It is going to be an improvement. It's only an improvement of about 6/10, but an improvement nonetheless. We are currently ahead of Max Verstappen as we switch down to Albon, sitting in 11th, ready for him to cross the line. He's improved in sector 2. Can he improve in sector 3? He does, and Albon goes up to 7th, ahead of Stroll, ahead of Mick Schumacher, ahead of Latifi, Verstappen, Norris and Hamilton, way off the pace. I think he may have had an issue on his first flying lap, but obviously Lewis will find a way through because that's what Lewis Hamilton does. Bottas making a great case for being one of our drivers next season though, currently on provisional pole as we go out for our final run at the end of the session. And full confession time, as you can see on your screen, Albon in 12th at this point, Latifi in 17th. I made a small tactical error when I set the cars up for this one. I told them to go for 2 flying laps, and I didn't bother reading anything properly because that's what I do. And I didn't read the bit where it said it needed a cool down lap between the 2 laps, so I waited a minute or 2 before I sent them out, which meant that we've got this flying lap. By the way, still painful to watch that. That was very painful to watch. Albon going right through Nicholas Latifi, maybe the collision detection not what it should be. Lots of cars going out on an out lap as well, which didn't help things in terms of this being our final flyer. I wasn't expecting it to be, but it doesn't help things in terms of being our final flyer. Lots of cars in the way, a Red Bull getting in the way here of Latifi, and we are sort of following through now behind Albon. I don't know why I didn't switch the camera here, but I should. Recording this live is issues. We need to cool our tyres before we get through this lap, which is we're having real tyre heating issues in Bahrain, it seems, as we've moved on to Albon. Albon really pushing. He's not gone green yet though, we're still yellow sectors, and I mean Albon very much under pressure. You've got to think Verstappen, Norris and Hamilton at least are going to get out of that drop zone, probably Magnussen as well. None of these things are impossible, and a few other guys who could shuffle in the pack as well. Obviously we have an Aston behind us warming up their tyres. I think we've got a Alpha Tauri just ahead of us as we come across still yellow sectors all around, and we are coming across the start-finish straight. Obviously that Alpha Tauri giving us a little bit of a tow, but it's not come off for us. No improvement in the time there for either of our drivers as they cross the line, and very much a case of just wait and see where everyone else comes in now with their final laps as they cross the line. The session is over. Ocon has gone wide at turn 9, which will have bottled his final flyer. That will have helped us immensely, and as we move on here, the team don't look happy. The team will never look happy from this. Real obvious signs the graphic designers were all men as well. We run out of time now. Teams crossing the line on their final lap. Sonoda confirmed himself in 7th. Vettel for the time being in 10th. Guan Yu Zhou goes up to 8th. We've got Vettel down to 12th now. Verstappen secures pole, the provisional pole. Russell in 4th. Sainz in 3rd. Leclerc goes 1st in the session. And Albon and Stroll very much on the bubble here, as Stroll gets knocked out, and we are very much waiting to see who crosses. Ocon has knocked. Was it Ocon knocked us out? Norris probably knocking us out there. It's very hard to keep up because the timing tree doesn't update immediately. We're still waiting for the 2 Haas cars to come through as well. Schumacher goes into 13th, drops to 14th. And that looks pretty final to me. So Vettel, Ocon, Albon, Stroll and Latifi are the drivers knocked out in this session. Confirmation there that we've qualified in 20th and 18th. I thought we could get a little bit further up than that. Definitely some work to do here. And we are straight into the race.
Williams had a good performance in qualifying. Now they'll be eager to demonstrate that they can have an even better race. Aston Martin were on target for qualifying. Now it's up to them to defy expectations for the race itself. There are a few clouds here tonight, but the sky remains mostly clear. Will it stay this way, or will the weather throw a spanner in the works?
But which team has perfected the strategy that will see them prevail today, here at the Bahrain Grand Prix?
So we're ready for the race session then, and the weather report saying clear skies. Karun Chandok seems to think we might see some rain, which I don't think has ever happened in Bahrain, if I'm honest. Close we're going to get to a chance of rain is 40%, which is still fairly high, if I'm honest. Looking at strategy, I had a look at all the available ones, flicked through the estimated race time, so I decided that I was just going to go with a one-stop. I think that's going to be a one-stop for both drivers. So we're going to start with Latifi on the mediums there, and we're going to go to the hards, and it's going to be a case of very much picking the optimal lap here to come in for that switch, that crossover. Had a little flick through, and I think I did a little bit of tweaking just here, and ended up deciding on coming in somewhere around lap, was it 19, 20? I went further than I thought here. Lap 27 is where we're coming in with Latifi, and again, the reverse strategy for Albon. We're starting on the hards because they're a little bit quicker. We're going to go on to the mediums for lap 31 as our crossover point for the change. So no need to double stack them, no need to worry about anything of that nature. I thought about going a bit harder in that second stint, but it very much becomes a case of how long are the tyres going to hang on if we do that. And we go to the grid now, ready for 5 red lights to kick in. And thanks Crofty, we are off and we're looking for a really good start here, try and make up as many positions we want. We're sticking with Nicholas Latifi because I felt like on those medium tyres he had the best bet of progressing. And you can see right off the start going into turn 1 he's picked up 1 place, 2 places. He's overtaken Albon, but obviously had the benefit of a better launch. And Albon starts to pull away as we go through turn 2. And we're going to get a replay then of that opening move to see it properly. I mean, Latifi did well, got a good launch. The Aston was on softs as well, which makes that launch even better for Latifi, quite honestly, because the Aston, the back, I think was Stroll, should have left him for dead. The team will, of course, celebrate that because it's a Williams, and this season we're probably not going to take as many places as we think we should. So we'll celebrate them all while we can. And we rejoin live action now. We are sticking with Latifi for a while because he's probably in the closest battle. You can see there that Ocon, I think it is just ahead of Albon as well. So we're going to just sort of try and maybe push on a little bit here, see if we can make something of this opening lap. I had a look, I sort of decided that we've underfueled the car slightly, which has also given us very little to play with on this opening lap. Maybe the thing to look at for the future for sure. And I'll have a little look just to flick through the screens again, just to kind of see what does what in race mode, because it's always good to know where you're going for options for things and all that good stuff, kind of warming ourselves up for the race ahead. We're on board now with Alex Albon, and he's got, you know, plenty of ERS to play with. We're going to have a long look at here. Do we want to push to catch up with Ocon? We are 1.1 behind. Had a little look, maybe see if we can send it here. Going on overtake mode with Albon to try and catch and pass Ocon. Just catch him, really, because we need to get somewhere near him. And we're going to overtake mode with Latifi as well, just to see if we can pull away from Stroll. I mean, if he passes Albon, that's fine, because strategy-wise that should work out for us. You can see there Albon has pulled himself back within a second of Ocon, and that's kind of where we need to stay. It's just kind of within that 1 second of the cars ahead of us. Just keep a nice sort of stable gap, so when DRS gets activated we can make sure we are staying in touch with the drivers around us and maybe give ourselves a chance to maybe undercut, maybe just make the best of strategy, take advantage of any mistakes, anything of that nature. You know how that goes. But yeah, Albon off to a decent start, with very much struggling actually during sector 2, and this is where our low speed cornering troubles will come in question, really. As you can see, a couple of low speed tight corners there. Every time we go through them we drop back just a little bit from Ocon, and it takes us a little while to recover. We got on a straight and we're back on board. We are ready to do kind of the big push, the big catch up, go into a medium or a high speed corner like these S's, and suddenly we start coming back into play a little bit. But those like the low speed cornering, I mean, I know I said I was kind of focusing on Monaco, and I very much am focusing on Monaco, but low speed cornering is a real weakness for this Williams car, and being able to develop it just so on these tracks where you've got the big sweepy corners that we may maybe get a bit of an advantage through. We also need to be able to go into those slow corners at least being a bit more competitive, at least not dropping any time. So we go on to lap 3, DRS becomes active, which is going to be a huge benefit to us. Really need to do some big pushing up here to try and keep ourselves within DRS range of Ocon, certainly. I think Latifi is a little bit too far behind Albon to take advantage of the DRS train. But, you know, Albon's certainly in the mix for DRS. We're going to come up with him in just a second, I'd imagine, because Latifi is just keeping Stroll at bay, and keeping Stroll at bay whilst, you know, useful is not necessarily the most interesting thing to watch. We've joined Albon now, and he's right on the back now of Vettel and Ocon. Really a three-way fight now for 16th. Vettel maybe a bit too far behind Ricciardo in the running as things go, but you know, there's still plenty to brace for here. But again, we go into this low speed corner and we are still not fully in it. We'll cross the DRS line, they'll open up the wing, and for some reason, maybe youth, naivety and inexperience, too much time away, Albon doesn't decide to follow the aero train there and stays out. I mean, if he'd followed them down that straight, you can't help feeling he probably would have caught and passed at least one of the drivers ahead of him, as Ocon takes Vettel to give us the 4-time world champion very much in our sights here. We've drained our ERS for Albon, so we're going to have to go neutral for a little while just to see if we can maybe harvest a little bit, use that a bit more strategically. We're still on the back going into the last corner, still on the back of Vettel as we cross on to lap 4. I promise you we're not going to do every lap of this race, by the way. As much as I would like to, this episode would be 4 hours long, and that's probably not the best way to do this going forward. We're just going to stick with this battle though, as long as we're sort of inside range, inside DRS range, as long as we can put up any kind of fight. We've gone to neutral on the ERS, we're dropping down to a more balanced fuel usage as well. Both drivers just to try and save a little bit of fuel for the end of the race, and we're going to stop burning through our tyres because we do need to make this one stop work to have any chance at all of even being involved in the conversation for the end of this. I think a lot of the teams ahead of us will one stop. I think there's going to be 4 or 5 teams maybe might risk a 2, but 2 really is no faster than doing 1. I don't see why you'd risk having a bad pit stop and losing that track position if you don't need to, coming out in traffic or any of that stuff. And again, Albon makes the decision not to join the aero train, and it's costing him. Maybe there's a stat I haven't seen yet, I haven't fully paid attention to, that we can develop that kind of makes him a bit more wise to the fact that he needs to be following the aero as much as he can. Driving in that dirty, I know he's probably trying to save the tyres a little bit, but I haven't instructed him to save the tyres. You've seen every instruction I've given him so far. I haven't instructed him to save the tyres. There's really no need to be cooling down hard tyres when we wanted to get heat into them to get the optimal pace out of them. And it just kind of feels a little bit like he's not driving maybe the way we'd like him to be going to the DRS again. You can see he doesn't follow the train, and he's losing the guys ahead of him a little bit because he's not following the aero train. And if he had been following it down that straight, he would very much be involved as we go into the turn 2 and 3 chicane, come out of turn 4, and here we go back up to the DRS zone. He needs to get caught up. He's 6 tenths behind at the start of the DRS zone. By the end of it, he's only 5 tenths up, 3 tenths behind. He is catching, and then we go through a series of kind of weird medium speed corners. We're sort of holding on, and we haven't really got the performance to keep up with the Alpine. Very much relying on Ocon to be being held up by Vettel here. Again, low speed corner, we go from 5 tenths down, very slowly creeping down towards 6 tenths, and then into this really low speed corner, 7 tenths, almost 8 tenths down. We come out the corner, we cross the DRS line. We're going to get an update on the gap, and we're nearly a second down at this point. 5 laps in, we've gone over a second down. Even DRS open, we come around this corner, and you can see we are not even in the chase at this point. Stroll very much catching Latifi. You can see our real struggle to keep up here. We've done well, I think, to still be in this 5 laps into the race, but we're not quite there. This is not the Williams that I grew up with. It's not the Williams I worked for. You know, I think you'll have seen from Spa this weekend, if you follow the email listings, as Guan Yu Zhou goes wide on turn 14 here and almost takes out a Haas with him. Not probably the best way to ingratiate yourself to the rest of the field, or in fact your team, who definitely look unhappy. But as I was saying, looking at Spa this weekend, I get the email blasts from another overtake happening here as Stroll gets his way past Latifi down the back straight. Eventually I'll finish telling the story I was telling. We'll get through it as we go into this. It's just a basic DRS overtake. There's nothing massively impressive by it, but it does put Latifi last, and he does need to get himself back involved in the fight. As the team are disappointed, but they've obviously no concept of the car we built. If I'm entirely being honest, it's not that great a car. We're going to lap 7. But yeah, you'll see from Spa, the mailing list for Williams, they were celebrating getting a point with Albon this weekend. And when I was at Williams back in 2002-3, they would have laughed at you for celebrating a single point. They really would. As we go on to overtake now with Latifi, trying to take advantage of this DRS here to go back past Stroll as we cross the start of lap 7. Are we going to get ourselves through? We are going to get ourselves through into turn 1. And it's just a case of whether we can hold it now on the way out. Obviously, we're going to go straight into another DRS zone here. We're going to switch to defending on the ERS. We're going to get a replay of the overtake. I'm not entirely sure I need to be showing you guys the overtakes that we see live, but such is life. Again, straight up DRS overtake. And honestly, keeping up with Stroll here, not the worst thing for our race, because he's on the softer compound tyres, which he can't extend them enough to go onto hards. It tells me straight away he is doing a 2-stop strategy, and we are doing, I suppose, the best we can to keep up here. this battle though will rage on for a few laps. You can kind of feel it. It's going to be a case of we get in a DRS zone, we can really have to defend. We get back, forth, we switch on to Albon. He's going full deploy. He's now 4 seconds on lap 7 behind Vettel, and we need to catch that up some before we get into a pit phase, because otherwise there is not a chance we're going to finish ahead of Seb. I mean, as things go, 18th is the best we can do. Latifi has got himself back ahead of Stroll. Stroll has DRS. We are defending again. We're going to make it through into this corner ahead, are we? We are just about. It's very, very tight. They're side by side. Stroll eventually gives up the corner, passing very, very hard through that corner. We're on defensive mode with Latifi. He's trying to pull away, trying to use as much of his deployment to pull away as he can. We're full deploy now. See if we can get ourselves a bit of an air gap between us and Stroll, because we need to kind of pull away from this DRS zone. We cross the DRS line. Stroll's still within 8/10 of Nicholas Latifi. It's probably not going to be enough to do anything of note. We are back in defensive mode, but obviously Stroll will once again get himself that DRS. He's going to start closing up. Is he going to make a move into turn 1? Is he too far away? Slightly too far away, thankfully, but he's going to push right up, ready to need defending against as we come again out of turn 4. Turn 4, of course, being where that huge accident happened for Romain Grosjean. Turn 3, sorry, where Grosjean had that horrific fireball crash, and we're still staying ahead. We've managed to survive another DRS zone, but this straight at the back here is always the big issue. We go into this low speed corner we're coming up to here. Very much going to have Stroll closing up as we pull out here. I'm very much wishing I hadn't kept the ERS box open, because I'd be able to see the timing screen, know exactly where we're at. Again, we'll live, we'll learn. We go into another low-speed corner, ready for the DRS zone, and you can see just visually Stroll has pulled right back up on us. I've switched to Albon just so I can go to neutral on the point. You see in the background, though, that Latifi is under threat from Stroll. I don't know why I didn't switch the camera. I'm really learning a thing about how to direct this game whilst I play it, so I can record it better. Always going to be a benefit to learn that, I think, down the line. Lap 9 though gone, and we are still in this battle with Stroll as we have a little check to see just what we're looking at strategy wise. I'd forgotten at this point just how far away we were from our pit window, and I did have a little think about, do I want to switch to maybe a 2, get some clean air, and maybe in hindsight I should have done, because Stroll making another move under DRS on the start finish straight going into turn 1. He's got the move done. We're going to go harvest, because I feel like we need to do that big kind of battery save, ready to attack. Doing a little bit of a charge up here, ready for this DRS zone. We're going to see a replay again of Stroll overtaking Latifi again. We saw it live. In fact, I decided not to shut. I made a good decision. Shocking stuff, as Latifi cannot catch up in DRS and he's starting to lose Stroll a bit. And the trouble is that can't help feeling once Stroll gets a gap over Latifi, it's probably a done deal, if we're completely honest, because Latifi's not as good a driver as Stroll, and his car isn't as good as Stroll, so it's really going to be a big issue for us if we lose sight of him. And we see here, gap to the leader, 33.7 seconds behind already after less than 10 laps. It's very far from ideal. Albon within 30 seconds. I started looking at this because I started thinking anyone on a 2-stop is probably going to pit within the next 4 or 5 laps for that first stop, especially those who are on softs, which all the field is. Probably looking at 4, 5, maybe 6 laps before they make their first stop. I wanted to see if we were maybe in a position, or who we were in a position to be passing through the first pit stop phase, see how things were going to shake out, see what positions we might be able to hold on to. Doing well on tyres though, 80% on Albon, 75 on Latifi. Probably with hindsight could have pushed a little bit more here, but hindsight is always 20/20 as Latifi goes for a move on Stroll again under DRS. He's DRS going into turn 1, and he's made the move around the outside. Can he make it stick? I mean, Stroll coming back through turn 2, turn 3, he's made it away, and he's going to have DRS, and that was kind of a fatal error for Nicholas Latifi, because at this point you can see just Stroll is gone. He got the pass before the DRS zone, opened up his DRS. He's put a second pretty much between himself. Even visually you can see he's put a second between himself and Latifi as we see what's going on here. And that's pretty much all she wrote until the pit stop phases for us, I feel, at this point.
And that was a bitter blow for the team, and it may have really hurt their overall chances.
So we've moved on a couple of laps here, and Albon now under threat from Stroll, who really does have some good pace now. These softs seem to have come up into working range. We're on lap 13, and the fact that, Stroll has dropped Latifi entirely, and Latifi, you'll see him coming into the background there, well behind. But Stroll making good progress catching up with Albon, and now we're very much in a position where we are defending Stroll again. And I have to really think about the strategy of what we're trying to do here. I'm having another look to see where we're at in terms of pit windows, see if I can get any indication of who might be coming in when, any indication of anything. I don't know why it's ended up on this sponsor screen, but you know, there you go, there are some screens you can see whilst you're in the race if you're playing this at home. The pre-race report, as I was looking at expected strategies, looking at what our chances of a safety car were, so I was thinking, if we get a safety car, can I pull something off strategically here that would make all the difference for us? Probably in a window where we could go to a two-stop onto two sets of softs from here if we got a safety car, which would have given us a little bit of an advantage, but it would have had to have been under a safety car. We couldn't have pulled it off under green flag running, and still the battle rages on, and very much you can see closing up now. Stroll to us. We've lost Vettel entirely. Vettel, you can see on the minimap on the right hand side of the screen, still battling Ocon down that back straight. May even take Ocon here. He has taken Ocon down the back straight as we are weaving, trying to keep Stroll behind us. His DRS is open. He has a look down the inside. Albon plants it middle of the track. He's just got enough there to take the apex, and he's going to come up this S section at the back here, very much hoping to keep Stroll behind him. But obviously the battle's not done here. Stroll very much right behind us, very much in our gearbox here. Just 0.2 of a second behind. He's following very closely behind Albon here, looking to see if he can make a move. Will he make a move at the bottom of this straight? It looks like Albon found enough straight line speed to pull away, which is really, really impressive, quite frankly. But here we are, DRS zone. DRS open for Stroll. I've noticed the DRS flap, by the way, opens before the DRS zone starts. Minor issue, but maybe someone in the dev team should have a little look at that. We've emptied the ERS of Latifi, trying to get him to catch up, especially while these guys are battling. It felt important to have him kind of at least make an effort to catch up to the battle ahead. And we're harvesting as well with Albon, just for the time being. And then we've gone to defend. So we've been overtaken though, coming off that straight. That little straight into turn 4 by Stroll. Great overtake, and again we are going to try and fight back, using the RS, try and get back ahead of Stroll as we go for the replay that felt like it took ages to come here. I standard again, DRS path, because at the inside Albon left the door wide open there. I guess he thought maybe he'd take him back through that next corner, but by that point Stroll was gone, and it was time to kind of regroup and try and work out where we come back into things. The team apparently devastated, because apparently this team doesn't understand they built a car that's not good enough. We need to have a little chat with the team, like, guys, what have we done? We've got a yellow flag in sector 2 at this point. Another car has spun somewhere. I'm guessing we're going to see a replay of that as we're on lap 15 now. Magnussen is the guy who spins, going up into this S section, just goes into the first section and just loses the back end on the curb, spins right round and just ends up just sat there looking like a lemon. Magnussen has dropped down to 15th. He's still got a fair gap behind him with Ocon and Vettel though, so he shouldn't be in any risk of anything major happening, but he has lost touch with his teammate, with Daniel Ricciardo. We've gained a position with Alex Albon whilst we've been going through that. We're doing okay. We're going to have a little push on the fuel now, have a little push on the tyres, see what we can do, and hopefully we can crack on and see what's going on. Maybe build a gap to Stroll. We are still, as I said, expecting pit stops to be happening any time around now as we go on to lap 16. And Stroll is going to peel off behind us into the pits, which is going to give us some lovely, lovely space to breathe. Gives Latifi that clean air, that extra position to move into. We're going to take a little bit of time to preserve our car. But I thought here about having a little push whilst Stroll was in as well. I decided to have a little push while Stroll was in with Albon, just to see if we could build a gap just while we've got some clean running. You can see it just up the front as well. I had a little look to see what was happening up top. Leclerc and Verstappen have got a 20-second gap between them, but Verstappen and Sainz battling out over second. Sainz just 2 tenths behind as they come through here, heading up the S section into the back straight, or the last straight before the final corner. And you've got to think here that Sainz must be able to make a move. He's definitely having a look, probably to go around the outside, swishes to the inside, a little bit of a dart here. Can he make it in the braking zone? Can't quite make it in the braking zone as Verstappen takes the racing line to cut him off. We are going to go here across the start-finish straight. DRS is going to come open. Are we going to stick with this action? We are. The Sainz comes up, looking down the inside. DRS open. Must be a lot of deployment of ERS here for Verstappen. There are cars coming out. Leclerc pitted in all that. And I think Verstappen held on to the lead there as we cut away. I don't know why I decided to cut away. That feels inopportune. We're on to lap 19 though, and the pit stop phases are very much underway. Ocon has ended up behind Alex Albon. Latifi has Vettel and Stroll behind him, and I've given him the tall order of trying to defend both Aston Martins, help Albon build some kind of a gap here. Albon trying to defend from Ocon, and again, hindsight 2020. Maybe I should have just let Ocon go. I mean, he's really not in our race. He should be up with Alonso inside the top 10. He does eventually go through here under DRS, but I probably spent a little bit too much time and energy trying to battle with him. You see, I went to overtake here to try and see if I could keep up, maybe get past Ocon. We're going to see the replay here, and again the team will undoubtedly be disappointed with this, despite the fact the Alpine is probably the 3rd or 4th best car on the grid, realistically speaking, as he's got through. And I mean, it was an easy pass, a very easy pass. The team once again are going to have a little cry because they understand this fella's hair is glitching, because that's just what happens apparently when you're super disappointed. Your hair just freaks out and starts glitching like the Matrix. So we've got Albon and Latifi now on track line astern. I say line astern, they're not actually anywhere near each other. Albon in 17th though, behind Ocon, keeping up half a second between the two of them as we come through into this section that very low speed. We start to lose track of of Ocon once again. Very tired as I'm recording this. I'm really sorry. I'm trying to get this episode out, and I'm losing track of names and times and things. So 7 tenths in it as we cross the DRS line. Are we going to find ourselves slipping back? We are slipping back to sort of that 1 second range. Albon though catches up another 4 tenths. We're 2 tenths behind as we get into the end of this straight, going up into the S section. This is medium speed cornering. We should be fine through a medium speed corner. Coming up, staying within reach of Latifi, is no low speed corner to really worry about. Maybe this one is a little bit lower speed than we'd like, and we've switched to Latifi, who is very much trying to keep 4-time world champion Seb Vettel behind him. Latifi, full push on the fuel now, full push as Albon up ahead, still desperately trying to keep up with Ocon. He is dropping back a little bit. He's going to be in DRS range. I don't know if I'm going to remember to switch here, because I think I got too involved in this battle. I did remember to switch. As we get into DRS range here, we're pushing, we're trying to get into turn 1. Can't quite make the move, and 3 tenths is the gap as we come through this section. Another DRS zone though, another opportunity to strike. Vettel catching up with Latifi behind. It's kind of all going on for our team all at once here. It's a shame we can't split screen things so we can see what both cars are doing at the same time. Vettel opens the DRS flap. Can he make a move here on Latifi? You've got to feel like he's got to have thought about it. Doesn't make the move into that turn 4 though. And up ahead, I mean, Albon still very much losing touch with Ocon as this battle continues. Vettel, I think, just really got to be looking for the right time to strike. Got to be thinking about this back straight here with the DRS zone, the second DRS zone on the lap, Albon outside DRS range. He's got DRS open though apparently, so maybe was just inside it as they crossed the line. He's not really going to catch up much. He's 3/10 behind Ocon as he comes out of or into the S section as Vettel has another look down this straight. Under DRS, is he going to make a dive to the inside? He's not going to make a dive to the inside. He's going to tuck in behind Latifi, just stay close as best he can. Albon goes neutral on the ERS. 5/10 though, still the gap. Tyres getting warm is always going to be an issue. I don't know why I reacted to that by bringing the fuel down, but I'm sure I had a great reason for it at the time. As we keep pushing through, and we just kind of have to see where we end up. Here is sort of where we're at. We just need to see how long it takes for Vettel to either pull in for a pit stop or to pass us. Vettel going DRS now. He's going on the outside. Bold move from Vettel. He's staying on the outside. He's not quite managed to pull all the way to the outside though, and Latifi doing very well, keep it centre of the track defensively to keep Vettel behind, if only for now. But the gap now between Latifi and Albon, solidly 10 seconds. We've kind of taken the Astons out of that race for 17th already at this point. And this battle, despite the fact that there's no way Latifi has any chance of staying ahead, you've got to feel, it's nice that we've managed to kind of do what we need to do. Like check to see if there's anything damaging the car that might be hindering us at all. Just holding Seb up. If we can hold Seb up long enough to, give a good bit of clear air for a pit stop window. Obviously we're lap 22 with 5 laps from our first or from our only stop with Latifi, but Vettel's still struggling to pass Latifi. Albon at the moment still trying to keep up with Ocon, doing a pretty good job actually of keeping up with Ocon, staying within a second of him. Vettel has made his way in the background there past Latifi down to P19, and Vettel left free to kind of start chasing down Albon a little bit. It's become really, as we see this overtake down the back straight, DRS, it was to be expected it was going to be coming eventually, but we can kind of also see here that we are, it's a race against the clock. I mean, all F1 is a race against the clock. We're very much in that race against time now. Can we...
The team are really disappointed with that. Let's hope it doesn't set them back too badly.
To see, can we maintain that 10-second gap, or can we avoid losing it? We've got 5 laps to maintain a 10-second gap to Vettel. We don't want him to get too close. Albon is still just about staying within DRS range of Ocon, but Ocon probably pulling away at about a 10th or 2 a lap at this point. Vettel on much fresher tyres and medium compound tyres should be able to make some inroads into Albon, but we're just trying to kind of keep ahead, keep that gap as big as we can. Obviously having that constant stream of DRS, that slipstream, the draft behind Ocon is definitely going to help us to grow the gap as well, which is always beneficial. You start getting the sense we're not necessarily going to make it past Ocon. We're just sort of trying to keep him honest. We're just trying to use him to pull us along to help build that gap. Because of course now Vettel has passed Latifi. Vettel doesn't have any DRS to use. He has no DRS to use. Albon and Latifi are the only people getting quicker and quicker as the laps tick down, apparently, according to the gaps on the left-hand side of the screen that popped up. So another driver is locked up, and who is the driver that's locked up? Well, it's in Sector 2, so it can't be far from us. Who is the driver locking up? That is the big question. Someone has run wide. It's Max Verstappen has run wide into turn 15 of a 14-turn track, apparently. So into turn 1, he's just gone in too fast, gone in a bit too hot. He's overshot the turn, taken a little while to get back going again, which is not ideal. And that's going to take Max out of the running for the win, at least for the time being. He's going to have lost a lot of time there. I don't know how many positions he will have lost coming out of that highlight. He has dropped down to 3rd and a solid 6 seconds behind Sainz in the lead. He should catch up to them pretty quickly, you would think Verstappen can keep up with the Ferraris when he absolutely needs to. Perez passing Hamilton as well, I've just noticed while I've been looking at that. Albon still in DRS range of Ocon. He's built an 11-second gap to Vettel. The gap is still increasing as Latifi still trying to keep up with Sebastian Vettel as well. Still doing a pretty good job, actually, of keeping up with Sebastian Vettel. Comes onto the DRS straight, the finish straight, start of lap 23. He's having a look down the outside. He's probably not going to find a move around the outside here, is he? Has a look, keeps his toe in, but he's not going to quite get there. And he's sort of trying to just harry and harass Vettel, which I think if Vettel was smart, he'd want to get behind Latifi, get that DRS going, get himself caught up to Albon, knowing he can take Latifi at any point. But Latifi, still DRS range, still keeping Vettel honest. It's still all to play for. 18th and 19th place still up for grabs. 16th is probably gone, but you know, it's not going to stop Albon trying for as long as he possibly can here. And Seb, he's trying to get away. He's not quite doing it as we go into this tight turn 10, turn 11. I always forget which number turn this is. Having another look, seeing where we are in relation to the pit window, reminding myself, making sure I know what's going on. I don't want to change any strategies just as I did start thinking about how long a tyre is going to go. What is the temperatures looking like? Do we have any chance of any unexpected rain coming? It's all kind of murky at this point. You know, like I said, I genuinely had a long thought about it. As Guan Yu's show runs wide coming out of turn 14, I mean, tried to push too wide is sort of what happened there. He's tried to push too wide on the McLaren, and I mean, Alpha are kind of hurting themselves a little bit here. Guan Yu Zhou certainly not having the best racing weekend of his career. As Latifi, while that's been going on, has overtaken Vettel again on the DRS, going into turn 1, and we are still in this fight. I mean, we're still... Latifi genuinely is battling Sebastian Vettel, and still remaining competitive on much older tyres, which is pretty impressive. The team are happy with that, which, I mean, to be honest, you know, we'll give him that. Latifi, of all people in this absolute awful car, I was almost less than complimentary, or less complimentary about the car, has managed to pass Vettel. I don't think he's going to keep Vettel behind him for long, but he did have a go. He did get himself through. He did push it as the pit window is active. He's going to come in just a couple of laps' time, as we are on lap 25, looking to head on to 26 very shortly, coming through again this tight twisting corner. Comes in, tightens up on you. Suddenly you're braking very hard as you go through that corner into DRS zone, and Vettel is there charging, going to have a look down the inside. He's got to be gaining on us at a rate of knots. He's got to be really feathering the throttle to avoid an accident, to be honest. Doesn't quite make the move there, but you know he's got Latifi in his sights. He's not going to wait until Latifi comes in for a pit stop. That's absolutely for certain. Latifi's still getting quicker, by the way, by the lap, which is pretty impressive, if we're completely honest. But see here, the fight's going to carry on down this last straight here and go into turn 14. We're really fighting here. Vettel having a look down the outside. Down the outside, goes for the move. He's got way more traction, way more grip on those tyres. Really extending the track limits as far as he can. Tucks up behind Latifi, opens his DRS, and you've got to think he's got to go for it here going into turn 1. There is no way he is not going to go for this going into turn 1, surely. He's going for it. He's going for it as he's not going to go. He's not going to go. He's not going to... It's almost like Vettel's afraid of making a move into turn 1. It's a really interesting sort of psychological dynamic. There is a 15-second gap, by the way, 15.5-second gap between Albon and Latifi. We're at a point now where when we pit Albon, he will come out at least ahead of Stroll, which at least ahead of Latifi as well, because Latifi will have pit by then, of course. We're on lap 26, and Latifi, on his old rubber, actually doing a pretty impressive job by what few kind of measures we've got of keeping Vettel behind him, and Albon still in DRS range of Ocon, which, frankly, I thought Ocon would be gone by now, and I have no idea why he isn't. Ocon, maybe some damage on the car, maybe he's having just a bad race. It's really hard to tell what that is just from the pictures we're being shown. I can't see a reason Ocon would have had any damage happen to him during the race. As we go back now to Latifi, back to Albon. We're kind of trying to follow two battles again, but Latifi is the one under the biggest threat. We're coming down into this back straight again, this final straight. I need to work out what this straight is called at some point, I think, some point in my life. But again, Vettel trying to catch, but not fully catching him. He's having another look down the outside. He doesn't really have or he doesn't take the room he does have, and Latifi back onto the racing line. But again, Vettel right up behind him. We're going to cross on to lap 27, and this is very much when our pit window is scheduled to begin. Sorry, this is lap 26 for us. The leaders are already on lap 26 and catching us actually at a rate of knots. It's got to be said. Again, Vettel has another look. Doesn't quite make the move. He's really biding his time here, and he's got to be able to see this. So he must have an engineer in his ear going, "Got to make this move. You're 20 seconds behind Albon. You need to make this move. You need to make this move now." And he does go for the move finally into turn 4, and we are very much being cleared. I mean, to be honest, Latifi's tyres at this point are probably somewhere approaching the maximum where they can take. We're going to get a replay of that overtake as well. So here we go. Again, DRS open. He finds the inside line, cuts Latifi off from taking it, goes a little bit deep on the or a little bit shallow on the corner, but does manage to make that stick, and then he just has to go through the S's, and it's very much a case of Latifi needs to follow to stay close. And we are looking now, I think, towards this lap or the next lap being the in lap that we need as well. As we are on lap 27 now, we should be heading actively into our pit window. I think this is the moment I decided to call it, realise that we're not really catching up with Vettel, we're not really gaining, we are still in DRS range, but we're not really going to be a challenger for Vettel on tyres this much older than his. So I go into the pit options, and I make the final decision, I think, to go in here and just do it, just switch to the hards, because we'll switch to the hards, we'll go to the end, we've got plenty of life in those tyres to make it to the end. Realistically, if I was allowed to, I could have done this whole race on 2 sets of medium probably.
Okay, box.
But we're going box for Latifi. Latifi is ready to come in. He's actually keeping up with Vettel quite nicely, but it is time to come in, get some fresh rubber, just so he can kind of be more of a threat to Stroll as we come into the closing stage of the race, you'd hope. But, you know, he's done well. He's had a good little battle with Seb. He's done well. We're pretty much at the halfway point of the race, and he's not left himself in too much trouble, which is all you can really ask of him. As he comes into the pit lane, and we're going to be hoping for a very, very good stop from our pit crew here. As Stroll comes around the final turn, I'm pretty sure we are going to come out behind Stroll here, and maybe away behind Stroll. Maybe that battling with Vettel wasn't as smart as we thought. As he comes into the pit lane, we go straight from the mediums to the hards. Good release, 2.92 seconds in the pit. A very decent stop, very creditable stop, quite frankly, in the modern era of F1. And we've come out. Where are we? We're way behind Lance Stroll at this point. We're about to be lapped by Carlos Sainz, and you know, I guess maybe I should have pushed more on that in lap. That's very much on me, and you can see here I had a thought about pushing on the out lap. Probably should have done that as well, but I think at this stage I kind of got so disappointed by how far behind Stroll that we had come out that I just couldn't. Latifi runs wide on turn 9, which is always strongly to our benefit as well, so we'll see how this goes. Where it's just, he's just not done well there. He's really struggled with that corner where he shouldn't have done. And I mean, the team are disappointed, but again, when the boss's son is in the car, so the sponsor's son is in the car, you cannot really expect anything less than mistakes happening. And we're in the optimal window now for an Albon pit stop. We are going to go on to a set of mediums here because, you know, we have to change compound. The medium will get to the end from here. We just need to get that fresh set on, get ourselves ready to go, and we'll see what happens here. Hopefully we can get 2.6 estimated pit stop. Feels ambitious. We should come out ahead of Vettel, we're being told, which seems ambitious. An 11-second gap doesn't seem very possible. We're coming on towards the pit stop now, the end of 32. And I mean, Vettel is an entire straight behind us. He's 12 seconds behind us. We're still we're still leaving him behind as we go into the pit lane, which is fairly impressive, but you've got to feel we're going to come out behind Vettel surely here. Vettel already on his way down the pit straight. It's going to be a real kind of chasing down kind of tyres off, tyres on, ready to go. 2.86, so a quicker stop than for Latifi. Vettel though is gone, and we are very much hoping we come out ahead of Stroll and certainly ahead of these lapping Ferraris of Sainz and Leclerc, because we don't want to end up having to mess around with the
take it easy.
Being a back marker, the blue flags, the being slowed down by that. We're going to say, we did actually, I forgot to point out, I did learn from the mistake with Latifi. I did do a big push on the in-lap with Albon. I didn't do a big push on the out-lap with Albon, but I did a big push on the in-lap with Albon, at the very least, to try and increase that gap. We've gone on board with Valtteri Bottas though, because I wanted to see how he was driving, have a little look down the order. Stroll into the pits for his second stop is going to be very, very helpful to us. He's going to come out, we think, behind Latifi here. He has gone onto a set of soft tyres though, and Latifi is coming through. I don't think Latifi's going to make it. He's got too big a gap on Latifi for Latifi to get through on those hard tyres. Gone into overtake mode, but really, that's a masterstroke from the Aston Martin team. Putting him on a set of soft tyres to go these last 18 laps. They know that Latifi couldn't keep up with them even if he got onto hard. So he might as well build that gap, try and catch up to Albon, really lift us in the dust.
Lift and coast.
And I feel like even we're going big push here, we're going big push, but I feel like Latifi's race at this point was very, very much over. Norris and Mick Schumacher also into the pits, but our race at this point was very much over, even though for the longest time I clung on to pushing the car, really sort of refusing to accept that this one was probably done, and that our best hope here was to try and make something happen. Some luck, safety car, some back marker issues, whatever it takes. We're lucky in terms of Albon, where there's a lot of clean air there you can see between the Red Bull cars, whereas Vettel is having to move over a lot with the Ferraris. He is losing time having to move over with the Ferraris, which is helping us a lot. Latifi overtakes Stroll though as I'm talking, and DRS open with the hard tyres somehow makes it round Stroll. Really close racing between the two Canadians. He's made it round. I think Stroll just kind of gave up on that, thinking there's a DRS straight coming, buddy. I'm pretty sure I'll get you back on softs. You have your little moment of sunshine. The team have a celebrate because they clearly don't have the capacity to think ahead and realise that he's overtaken a guy on soft tyres in a better car. It's probably not going to stay that way. Although he has put a 1.3 gap up with using the ERS, with pushing his tyres, pushing his fuel. Those can't go on forever. It's got to be said, the tyres are very much overheating as well. Got to do a charge up for Latifi just to get things a bit more on an even keel. We're going to switch back down on the fuel now, just kind of stop the engine screaming out temp-wise. We're going to drop on the tyres as well. And realistically, I think hindsight being 2020, I probably could have pulled away a bit more if I'd stayed just going full guns on everything for a little while, but also I was aware that realistically Stroll a much better driver, much better driver than Latifi is. And you can see here Albon now we're on board with. He has managed to unlap himself from the two Red Bulls, or unlap himself from the Red Bull that had lapped him. Stroll making a move here on Latifi, same straight he lost the position before, goes in no trouble that time. And it's very much kind of a clear, job done, position gained, and you can't help thinking Stroll is going to press on here and just keep making that gap bigger and bigger from this point. There's no way Latifi can sustainably keep up with a guy on soft tyres in a better car. It cannot be possible. As we go back on board here with Alex Albon, you see the Ferrari in the distance, that scarlet Ferrari in the distance behind. You can also see though that Vettel has made a pit stop. Sebastian Vettel into the pits, and Albon will take the position. Vettel's going to come up not just behind Albon, he should come out behind the Ferrari as well. Well behind the Ferrari, possibly behind Perez. He is going to come out behind Perez. He's going to come out behind Verstappen, and we may have just had the greatest stroke of luck in history. You see there Hamilton as well, probably about to come through on him, as Verstappen gets caught a little bit behind going into turn number 1, but you can't imagine that he's going to stay behind Stroll long enough for that to be a concern. He has got Hamilton and Russell and Bottas coming up on him quick. We've got clear air ahead of us. We are of course very aware that Sainz will be at some point coming through. There's a 13-second gap, an ever-increasing gap behind us to Vettel. I mean, we have 15, 16 seconds on Vettel and 30-odd seconds on Stroll. We have all the time in the world as we go into the last 15 laps of the race. And yes, lap cars will come into play. The fresher rubber for Vettel is going to come into play. I know all those cars that have just forced their way past Vettel are probably going to try and force their way past us over the next few laps as well. It's probably going to close the gap down, but as things stand, we're kind of sitting pretty. And actually, I looked at it at one stage here, and I was thinking that with 20 laps or 20 seconds ahead of Vettel, we're miles ahead of Stroll, more than a pit stop for sure ahead of Stroll. I did think about coming in for a set of soft boots for ourselves and really making a race of it, but with Vettel on softs, it didn't feel like a smart move. As you can see, Leclerc has come in for his pit stop. Sainz will make it past his teammate to take the lead off the Grand Prix. Perez also into the pits. So Verstappen is the lead Red Bull trying to chase down Leclerc at this early stage in the season. We've got Latifi back at war with Lance Stroll though. This is a war that has gone on and on and on during this race. I mean, back markers are sure to have got involved and other things. We're coming past the pit straight with a bunch of cars in the pit lane. Perez, I can see there. Bottas, Hamilton, Alonso and Gasly all in the pit lane. We have passed them, but they're going to be a problem for us coming out. I mean, Hamilton is the lead car coming out. Then Alonso, Gasly and Bottas all very much going to be problems. Latifi overtakes Stroll though whilst I'm running through what's happening pit stop wise, and we'll see what happened there. I think it was DRS into turn 1 again. Turn 1 been a very good hunting ground in this battle for both drivers, and I mean, it was just a simple DRS pass as that train of cars that are about to really cause us problems comes out of the pit lane, and we go again back hunting, trying to keep this battle going. I mean, these guys are thrilled watching the battle for 19th place, which tells me how low the expectations are in the team right now. I cannot pretend I'm happy with that in any way, shape or form. As you can see here, we come back and there is a 3/10 gap between Latifi and Stroll, and a DRS zone coming up which cannot be comfortable. There are lapped cars now past. I think that's Norris has just lapped Albon up top. Is that Norris? I have Sainz going past. Sorry, Leclerc is about to go past. Verstappen about to go past as well. Russell has just passed Vettel. 16-second gap. Albon still 45 seconds shy of Ocon. So that 16th is gone now. 17th is our best expectation. You'd hope here we can get out of the way of Leclerc. If we're going to switch across cameras, hope we can just stay out of the way of Leclerc, let him have an easy pass here. He may be too far back actually to have an easy pass here. We go into turn 1, we'll see how that shakes out on the mini-map. I think we probably have let him go here, or will let him go in this DRS straight, and it's very much a case of just being smart on when and how quickly we let the lapped cars pass. As Latifi again struggling to stay ahead of Stroll. We are going to have another DRS attack from Lance Stroll on the soft tyres going into turn 1. And you can't help think he's going to make easy work of this. And with those leaders, or I say leaders, they're actually 4 to 7, catching us up behind us. So you've got to think this is going to cause a lot of issues for us going into the last sort of dying embers of the race here. Replay, standard ERS pass, standard DRS pass going into turn 1 for the Aston Martin. Nice and straightforward, easy stuff, easy prey really in TV. And as I said, the backmarkers being caught here. We're having a little run around to, work out if we can make his car any faster than a GP or an F3 car. We come here now, lap 56, we skip forward. You can see Latifi has dropped 13 seconds behind Lance Stroll, but Vettel because of the back markers passing it through us and his softer tyres, has closed the gap. Remember, it was a 20-second gap at one stage about 10 laps ago. Has closed the gap up. We're going to have to let back markers through more, or let more lapping cars through. I think we're down to Guan Yu Shou now, or to possibly Gasly. We've got Vettel now 1/10, 2/10 of a second behind Albon. A lap to go for us realistically, because this is going to be the final lap of the Grand Prix once the Ferraris cross the line, which they are pretty much just about to do. We're going to stay on board for pretty much the rest of this battle. Last lap starts, Leclerc goes on to it. Leclerc and Sainz are battling out for the lead for that first win of the season. Meanwhile, we have got Albon on mediums and overheating mediums, wearing out mediums, versus Vettel on definitely much younger soft tyres. It's going to be a close battle. We've got to go attack mode. We've got to burn as much of this tyre as we can, as much as we dare, as much ERS as we dare burn. We genuinely have no choice here as this battle continues. And I mean, hopefully we can maybe get some ERS off the car, but I think actually the AlphaTauri ahead is too far ahead for us to get DRS from him. We are very much just trying to deploy what we can here, trying to make the best of it. Wing opens once again for Sebastian Vettel. He's looking for a move going into turn one. Is he going to make the move? I mean, we could lose 17th place here. We are very much under threat. We've got another DRS zone coming. It's always going to be a threat having another DRS zone coming. The rears are going for Latifi, but Latifi frankly was out of this race about 10 years before it started, if we're completely honest. The oscillations are killing Latifi, and I mean, I don't want to say not quickly enough, but frankly, if he needs to take a few races off, I'll stick almost anyone else in that car at this point. He's just not performed during the race as well as I thought. He's shown glimpses of potential, but he's not really performed. But the real battle still, for us at least, is Albon trying to keep Vettel behind. We have one more DRS zone to go in this race. Leclerc and Sainz have crossed the line already. Leclerc the winner. We're going to see the replay of Leclerc winning. Was it a close finish? I mean, not particularly. It's about 3/4 of a second. If we're quite honest, I mean, yes, there was some attempt to catch, but it didn't quite get there. What really matters here, of course, is we have our first race winner of the season so far for a very happy Ferrari team, and it is Charles Leclerc, as you'd expect. Back to battle though, Albon in 17th, trying to keep Vettel honest. Low speed, its rear's gone. For Albon, not what we're looking for as we come out of this corner. There is one more low speed corner. We need to really kind of marginal on the fuel. Really marginal on the fuel here. We have got to kind of do everything we can. We've got some energy to push with, some ERS to push with. Into the last corner. Vettel has a little look. Albon cuts off the racing line, takes the apex, coming into the last corner. We do have one more DRS line, and Vettel has opened DRS. How close is this one going to be? He's crossed the line, and Albon has, by 2/10, taken 17th place, which is not the worst return in the world. He does gain a position over the course of the race and beat Vettel, which is pretty impressive. And we are about to cross the line with Latifi, but he's very, very far clear of all of his competition really. He is way, way behind Stroll. I think it's 20 odd seconds he finished behind Stroll as he comes across the line. 17.8 seconds is the gap for Latifi from Stroll. He really did fall apart on that hard tyre stint. Maybe that's for future reference. Don't stick Latifi on hards, go with a 2-stop. Many lessons learned. We finished our first race though. To finish first you must finish. Albon climbs up the car and
an okay performance for Alex Albon today.
I mean, he's not going to be celebrating it, but as Crofty says, it was an okay performance. He's justified, I think, in giving him that 5-year contract.
Williams today. Some excellent decisions and then some strategies that will need a bit of work.
They've displayed some moments of quality here. All they need now is some fine-tuning to achieve great things.
With the race wrapped up, the team is ranked in 9th in the constructor standings.
The teams now look ahead to the next round, where they'll duel it out in the sand dunes of Saudi Arabia.
Gotta be honest, I've always liked Karun Chandok as a commentator, but I feel like his impression of where we are in terms of a few right decisions making things better for us, probably reflective of why his own racing career was not the best in the world. Look it up if you're not familiar with him as a racing driver. You can see their confirmation. We've finished 17th and 18th. Obviously, we'll be in the same place in the drivers' standings. That's kind of not important here. It's kind of the count back. Constructors, though, we sit in 9th. One of 3 teams not to score any points at all from this race weekend. Experience gain 581 for Latifi, 667 for Albon, and 745 for Aitken, which should hopefully give us a chance to develop these drivers when we go into episodes 2, 3, get a few more points on the board for them. If we can, money-wise, we've made 3.7 million on the balance sheet, which we'll probably spend on some kind of facility upgrade, I would expect. And that brings us back to the homepage where we can wrap things up. So, that is the end of this episode, guys. I want to thank you all very much for watching. I'll be back as soon as I can with episode number 2, where we go to Jeddah, and hopefully we'll get a slightly better result, see if anything changes in terms of our relative performance to other teams with a slightly different track. In the meantime, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave comments, tell me what you think, any tips, advice, whatever you've got. You've been playing the game, I'm sure. Give me those pointers, because I'm definitely going to need them. In the meantime, I have been chasing Liam Lee. Until next time, thank you for watching. I'll see you very soon. Have a good one.